What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. This is an episode we intended to do a day or maybe even 2 days ago, but we had some Apple feed issues this week. You may have noticed if you were searching for our podcast on Apple and you were seeing the 161 boys, or maybe not seeing our podcast at all and wondering, did they just ghost? Did they just up and leave? No, we were having some issues. Finally got it resolved yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, that was weird. We transferred to a different hosting platform, and there was some cross up, so that's what it was. But it's all fixed now.
Crossed. Yeah,
the wires got crossed. But,
very frustrating and helpless. It's a very frustrating and helpless feeling when you're like, I can't do anything.
It's in the computer. make it better.
It's in Zoolander. It's in the computer. Just start opening it up, smashing it.
That was the reference, Andrew. That was the reference.
No, I know. I was just explaining because there's probably people who have no idea.
Got you.
Yeah. All right. So I want to start with a question to you because I saw this written. I think this was written in on MLB.com by Hoke, but it could have been somewhere else. And it basically, the takeaway was the Yankees are entering 2025 with a more complete roster than they had during the 2024 World Series run. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Top to bottom, I think it is still incomplete. I can't even answer that question because they have two positions that are not filled currently. So it's very difficult to answer that question. I think there's more nuance to it. I think the pitching staff is more complete, no doubt about it. I think the pitching staff is 1,000% better as far as like a fan, expectation going into the season. Last season, we were looking at the front office and like, what are we doing with this? The names out there, and now they actually have a closer. They have another starting pitcher who's a frontline guy. So I feel very good about the pitching staff at this point with some of those names that have gotten more seasoned. But yeah, the offense, especially with Stanton, who the hell knows? And then there's a big question mark for third base. It's very difficult to say that, yes, they do.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I'm not sitting here arguing, oh, they're going to be so much worse than they were last year. I don't know. They could be better than last year. They could be the same. They could be slightly worse. I just don't know that that's a fair statement to say. And I completely agree. Yes, the pitching staff, they added Fried and Williams. Those are two good pitchers that they added to the rotation in the bullpen. That makes their pitching staff better. It's not just about losing Soto. Like you said, what is their plan at third base and left field? They don't.
Well, I think we know what the plan is in left field. The third base.
What is their plan in left field?
Jason Dominguez.
Okay. I mean, is that like
that's the plan?
Yeah. Fine.
That's the best plan in left field that we've had in a very, very, very long time.
I guess when you put it that way, that's not saying a lot because
we know what is happening. There's a young guy that's got all the potential in the entire world who has some blunders with the fly ball.
The sun is a real problem for that man.
He's going to be out there in left field, and he's the left fielder, and they're going to be growing pains, which I embrace. Fine, get him over with, but play him through them. And there's a potential for a dynamic bat. I mean, this is probably the most hope we've had in left field since we thought Clint Frazier was going to be the left fielder.
That's fair. What year were you talking about there? Which was it, the first, second, third, or fourth time?
The first time going through, we thought when they made that trade, they're like, that's the guy that's going to play left field for the next 10 years.
And then Brett Gardner continued to start in left field for 4 more seasons.
Correct.
And then Aaron Hicks started in left field for 3 more seasons.
Correct.
And then they had Joey Gallo.
I put that out of my memory.
Briefly, Benintendi. Miguel Andujar got a couple of fly balls out there. It's been a revolving door in left field and frankly third base. Because if you go back, both of those two positions have just had no real concrete plan for going on 4, maybe even 5 seasons. Last year, we know at third base, Oswaldo Cabrera played the most third base until they finally acquired Jazz Chisholm. But we went through this last episode. They didn't even acquire Jazz Chisholm to be the third baseman. He was forced over there because Dingleberry didn't want to move positions. The previous year, 2023, they went into the season with left field Hicks as the starter. We all know how that went. He was quite possibly the worst player in the league, and they finally released him with a couple years left on his contract. Oswaldo ended up playing the most time in left field. So Oswaldo Cabrera in 2023 played the most time on the team in left field. And then the following year played the most time on the team at third base. So far we've got Oswaldo Cabrera as just the Flex Seal slap it on solution. 2022, they went into the season with Gallo and Hicks as the third and fourth outfielders. They ended up having to acquire both Benintendi and Bader because both of those guys absolutely sucked. And the year before that, 2021, Gio Urshela played the most at third base. And I guess that's the best third baseman they've had in recent memory, barring Jazz Chisholm. At least he was competent at third base, both offensively and defensively. And left field, they had to acquire Gallo after Hicks, Andujar and Michael Tauchman failed as the left field solution. So yes, I agree with you. Dominguez going in, like, I'm excited. I to quote Aaron Boone, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to play left field. That's I agree. But this is now 5 seasons where Brian Cashman goes into the season with, like, how have you not fixed this by now?
I'm not going to put that this season in those same buckets, because this is a player that, for all intents and purpose, this is the guy. This is the guy that they've been grooming since he was 16 years old to come up. He's got the pedigree, he's got everything, he's got the hype, he's got everything that you want. So and he's shown it in the major leagues as well. Unfortunately, he got injured and didn't have that. It was a short period of time.
You're talking about the 28 at bats or whatever from September 2 years ago.
Yes, he showed a glimpse of what we hopefully wanted to see, and you have to at some point give the reins to a kid if he's this highly touted and has done it everywhere else.
I'm not suggesting they don't.
And I'm me for one. I've said this a whole bunch of times, and I'm sure he's gonna. And I really hope that the fan base doesn't do this, but it's probably going to do it. You included. Now that Glaber's gone, Jason Dominguez is square in the sights of fans who are ready to just kill someone.
Why?
for play. It's just the way it works. It's just one guy's gone, the next one has to pick it up, and it's probably going to be him unless he comes out very hot.
No. If he struggles,
actually, it might be Volpe at this point.
Listen, if Dominguez struggles because he's struggling, that's fine. Young players can go through struggles. If he makes mental errors, and I'm not talking about physical errors, if he makes mental errors to the level that Gleyber Torres made, yes, I'm going to get on him, and I think that's fair.
Fine. But he needs the rope to make mistakes. He needs that long leash to make mistakes if he's going to be in left field every single day. We said this, I feel like I'm repeating the same exact thing we said about Clint Frazier, but they didn't give him that. Granted, there's no Brett Gardner, there's no veteran player who can go out there and play left field at this point.
That would be Trent Grisham if he's healthy.
But Trent Grisham is not. Brett Gardner was in the outfield as a starting player for many years. Mm-hmm. It's not like Trent Grisham has that type of ability to go out there and do that. Trent Grisham is a defensive 4th/5th outfielder that occasionally, finds the barrel of the bat and will put it over the fence. But Jason Dominguez is a dynamic player that has to be able to grow into the position and grow into a major leaguer. And there are going to be struggles, but I'm all for letting him make the mistakes and fix those mistakes along the way, because I think that's the best way to do it. I firmly believe that. And you're not going to get this type of competitiveness. You're not going to get this type of, this certain type of play in AAA. You're just not going to. So the guy's got to go out there and make those mistakes. And I love giving him the job because I want him to feel that ownership of the job. Much like we wanted that for Clint Frazier back in the day. Just give him the job, let him make the mistakes, and they never really afforded him that. There were other things happening with that player, obviously. But this is a great situation for the Yankees to be able to do that.
I forget, where did you land last September going into October on if Dominguez or Verdugo should have played left?
I wanted Verdugo out of the game. I wanted him out of my face. Didn't want to see him play baseball.
So you wanted Dominguez to just get the job through the upside, despite the errors.
The problem was with him at the end of the year is he wasn't hitting either.
Right. And
when you're making mistakes in the field and you're doing nothing at the plate, it's very hard to justify putting a less than average outfielder in current standing out in left field. So. And then, at some point, there's no argument against playing the guy can catch the ball.
It was a little weird. I guess he was on the roster we were talking about. I remember, like, what's he? If he's not going to play, he got 1 or 2 pinch running situations.
One pinch run in a very strange situation, where they had to pull him from the game.
So I agree with you on left field, and giving him the job this year. I just read the list. Believe it or not. seeing what the rookie can do is the most concrete plan they've had in left field in quite some time. What's the excuse for third base? Because third base has been just as big of a problem as left field the past 4 or 5 seasons, and this year it is not fixed. And I'm sorry, DJ LeMahieu / Oswaldo Cabrera is not an okay enough plan.
Going into the season where it is obviously not ideal because we don't have a definitive starter over there, nor do we have a guy that's played a full season at third base in recent history. You know, with DJ LeMahieu has played the most over there probably in his career, but we don't know what he is at this point. Now, we talked about this last episode, I think, and I think I'm still firmly in this camp. And, you know, this probably goes along with the whole conspiracy of Nolan Arenado playing in that road game and traveling on the bus to go there. There's all the, you know, everybody's talking about the fact that he did that. Well, why would he do that? You know, maybe he wanted to go see Goldschmidt. Maybe he wanted to see his buddy. Maybe he wants to play for the Yankees. Maybe he just felt like going and playing in the game. I don't know. Who knows? But there is time. The Yankees don't have to go get Nolan Arenado right now, because at the end of the day, if they made a deal for a third baseman in June or July, does it really matter? Does it really matter in the long haul of the season, getting ready for playoffs? I understand you got to get to the playoffs.
I think it matters.
They have options there. And if the dollars are something that, and I know Steinbrenner has said there's no mandate to go under that 301 or whatever that number is, but if they go over it, I think they're a little over it right now. If they're to go over it and stay over it, you might as well go a little bit more. But it all depends on what they can do with Marcus Stroman. And I think that's why I actually think this is a pretty important spring for Marcus Stroman to show that he's, you know, healthy and has stuff so that he can be appealing to another team. And maybe that's a situation that unfolds where you have the Cardinals and the Yankees. You know, this is the one fit that makes the most sense, I think, across baseball, considering Arenado has a no trade and has, you know, rejected all of the attempts to go to Houston, which was the one team that really wanted him at that point. I think the writing very possibly is in the sand for that deal to happen at some point.
Well, you know what the funny thing is, he doesn't even have to shave now to be like, hey, see, I'm willing to shave. Because remember when Bryce Harper, the year before he was a free agent, played the Yankees in spring training, he randomly shaved his beard. You remember that story?
Kind of.
Yeah. And everyone was like,
he wanted to be a New York Yankee.
Of course he did. But yeah, now Arenado, we'll talk about this in a second, but now Arenado doesn't even have to shave to do that. So the thing you were saying about acquiring a third baseman during the season, yeah, of course they could do that. I think it only matters, we could do a hindsight, say they acquire someone at the trade deadline. We could do a hindsight. Okay, is that player better than who they could have acquired in the offseason to play third base? And what does the infield look like in the first half of the season? Because we've talked about already the question marks in the infield. I know Jazz Chisholm thinks that the up the middle defense is going to be the best in baseball history. They're going to break the record for double plays turned. They're going to turn
they have the potential to be very good.
Yeah, but they're going to be the best ever. And so,
it could be.
But I think time will tell. How is the rest of the infield performing? Because if third base is what we think it's going to be, which is not good, and then one of those other positions also struggles, then the whole infield suffers. You can kind of get by with one non-factor in the infield, but two is kind of a lot to deal with. So I think it's a fair question if 2 months into the season we've got first base struggling or shortstop struggling or second base struggling and third base sucks. Then it's like, well, you went into the season knowing third base was going to suck. And then of course someone has a down season. Someone always has a down season.
It is difficult to go into a season understanding that you already have a handicap in the starting lineup. Essentially, you don't have a definitive guy that you can bank on. So you're right. If there's any weakness along you know, in the lineup or in the field in some capacity, then yes, it just becomes that much more glaring because you know what you're going into with third base, and it's a very big unknown. You also have a rookie starting in left field, so yeah, there's unknowns like there are in any season. But I think that the priority for third base, because it hasn't already happened, they don't need to walk into day one of the season on opening day with a new guy at the position for me to, feel great about it. If they do it, if they recognize that it's not working and they make the adjustment, and there's some trade that's made, within the first few months of the season or by the trade deadline, then to me that's satisfactory, given where we are right now.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The rest of the roster should be good enough to pick up one bad position, right?
Yes, but then we have Stanton.
We'll talk about him in a second. But are you looking to optimize your nutrition this year? No, we're not talking about New Year's resolutions. Those are long gone. This is if you're just looking to eat healthy meals without too much hassle. How, you might be asking? With Factor. Factor meals arrive to your door fresh and fully prepared, so you can worry about all the other things going on in your life, like work, kids, yard work, errands, chores, listening to the Bronx Pinstripe show, figuring out what's going on with your Apple feed on Bronx Pinstripes. The list goes on. And because Factor meals are dietitian approved, you can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals. That information is based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto. Note that results may vary depending on diet and exercise. But the point stands, you can stick to your health goals easily with Factor because they handle the hard part, cooking and cleaning. My absolute favorite thing about Factor is that it's quick and easy. I am so freaking tired of cleaning from meals. I like the eating part. There's the slog of cleaning up from dinner plus the kids' dinner is just exhausting. Factor takes care of both the cooking and cleaning, and I love them for that. You can eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code factorpodcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That is code factorpodcast at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. Gets you 50% plus free shipping on your first box. Also, if you are frustrated by big wireless carriers and their crazy high bills, bogus fees, and quote, free perks that actually cost you more in the long run, then switching to Mint Mobile is something you should seriously consider. Say bye-bye to overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages, and say hello to Mint Mobile starting at just $15 per month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on our nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Your phone number comes with you. Your contacts come with you. Switching is so easy and affordable. You're going to ask yourself, why did I not do this sooner? You can shop plans at mintmobile.com/Bronx, mintmobile.com/Bronx. Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5 GB plan is required, which is equivalent to $15 per month. New customer offer for 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. What the heck is going on with Giancarlo Stanton?
It's ominous, man. It's weird. The fact that, it comes out that he's had elbow issues and he had elbow issues last year. It was bothering him. High pain tolerance too, or high pain issue, apparently. Tennis elbow, both elbows, which is essentially like, your ligaments in the back of your elbows. Just
Isn't it tendonitis?
hurt.
Isn't it elbow tendonitis, basically?
Yeah, I think it's just another word for that. And so I revealed that I've been dealing with that too. It hasn't kept me off the podcast, Mike, but it's taken me out of. I used to play tennis a lot. I used to play racquetball a lot. Just can't do it anymore because
Hold on, quickly.
what happens is there's just no strength in it, and after it's used for a little bit, there's no strength in it. But I'm not also getting cortisone shots or anything. I don't have world-class doctors that can hopefully help.
You're not trying to hit 98-mile-an-hour fastballs. So when this whole thing about Stanton going back to New York came out, I know you like to go on Reddit because there's a lot of sometimes there can be some good stuff on Reddit. So I went on Reddit for the Giancarlo Stanton post, and it was about the tennis elbows. The top comment was, "Wait, he has tennis elbows? Why don't they replace them with baseball elbows?" And problem solved. And I was just like, God damn it! Why did I come to Reddit?
Because it's gold. It's good stuff. That's what Twitter used to be like. Shit like that. It's funny.
But yeah, so he goes back to New York. There's that report. He's going back to New York, and everyone thinks because it was reported he's going back for tests on his elbows. And then later that day, Boone said he went back for a personal issue. And that's all he left it at. And then the next day, Boone was asked about it again, and he said there's nothing else more to say right now. Hopefully we see him soon. If he wants to address anything, he can, but there's really nothing more to answer right now. So he did not go back to New York for his elbow issues. He went back for some other unknown personal issue. I don't know if we should or should not speculate about it. All I know is it's very weird and mysterious.
It's very weird and mysterious. The fact that he went back to New York. I mean, the guy lives in California, right? Off season, like that's where his home is. So it's not like, So I don't know. I mean, you could go a million different ways here. You know, what happened during the season last year? How many months are we away from that? Who knows? You know, there's a lot of things that you could speculate. But the fact is that this guy's elbows, whether there's a personal, I hope he's okay. First of all, I hope there's nothing else going on
Right.
that's wrong with him. And that, you know, he's able to come back, and this is just much ado about nothing. And he just doesn't feel like disclosing his personal life, which, okay, that's fine too. But the elbow is the one thing that we know about. The fact that that's an issue, and it was an issue last year as well, that's a problem. And, you know, it's not going to get any better as he's getting older. So, and I know cortisone, you could get those shots in your elbow and they're temporary. You can only get, it's temporary relief. And you're only supposed to get a certain amount of them, you know, within a calendar year or within, you know, back to back. There's definitely like time constraints on when you can get them as well. So it's not a permanent solution. You know, if it was such a big issue last year, is this something that, you know, him going under the knife to get fixed would have solved the issue? Is, you know, so it's not like
was it an issue
not like
all
the Yankees
year?
didn't know.
Was it an issue? I thought they said he dealt with it during October last year.
They did, but I listened to a clip with Michael Kay saying that and I don't listen to Kay's show consistently, but apparently he was talking about it a lot last year and mentioned that it had been an issue throughout the year, and certainly was an issue when he was, you know, in the playoffs. Granted, it didn't affect him, so I don't know what they did at that point. If they shot him up, you know, with something that was a numbing agent or something that just, you know, allowed it to kind of go through that point and allow him to get through the playoffs. But obviously, it wasn't an issue for him in the playoffs. But over the course of an entire year, I mean, we know what he is. We know he's going to be on the shelf for, you know, a month plus in a given year. But if this is a long-term thing that's going to be, you know, just get worse as age continues to happen because you can't stop it, then it's a problem.
Yeah, and we don't know
especially if it's not preventable.
We don't know what happened immediately after the season because we found out about the tennis elbow issue when spring training started. There's months between the World Series ending and spring training started. What did he do in that span? I think that's that's a fair second guess and question to the Yankees, to Stanton, to the, you know, Yankees medical staff. Then why didn't you deal with this last season? Because he might have had it during the season and they might have been like, we could deal with it now, but that ends your season. He might have been like, well, I think we have a chance to go to the World Series, so I don't want to miss that. So I want to power through it. And if that's the case and that's the choice he made, then fine. Because yeah, he was the best offensive player for the Yankees in their October run. But then address it the week after the World Series if you can do something then, instead of showing up to spring training, be like, oh, right, my elbow's hurt.
Well, it's not like I'm sure that they knew this, you know, over the course of the off season, but you know, and I don't know, maybe surgery doesn't fix.
I have no clue.
Fix that
could just be rest, and the rest didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, every time I go, I'm like, I tell the doctor that I want Tommy John surgery. I was like, I just want.
So
Tommy John
you've
surgery.
seen a doctor for this?
Yes, I have, and all they do is they give you these stupid exercises that don't work every single time. I'm like, yo, don't give me the exercises anymore. All right? I've rehabbed it.
Let me go to Dr. James Andrews.
Yeah, I want the Tommy John. Take a ligament out of my ass and put it in my elbow. Let's go. And do both of them while you're at it. Okay. Let's just get it all over with in one swoop so that I can rake leaves without pain.
Is it your right or left elbow?
It's both now. It's mine. It happens in both, but the right, it's been for a long time. I've had it for a long time in my right elbow.
So there was a quote. There was a quote from Judge, about Stanton. He's one of the strongest physically I've seen, and also mentally, just to be able to handle the ups and downs of playing in New York and then battling some injuries he's had throughout the season. I guess fans will get on him about missing some games, but this guy is one of the toughest guys, hardest working guys I've ever seen. He's going to be fine when it comes down to it, just a little bump in the road. Rather have this now than in the middle of the season. So that part about fans getting on him about missing games. Do you think fans still get on Stanton for missing games?
Not after last year, no. I think that it's completely accepted that he's going to miss. But we know first of all, usually you start the season healthy. It's not like you go into the season unhealthy, because usually it's something that goes on through the wear and tear of the year. And like, okay, look, he's going to need some time. We get it. But this is different. It's like, there's a lot of mystery around this. There's gray. We don't know what's happening. They're intentionally being vague about what's going on with him. And I think that's the the issue. There's a lot of uncertainty. I joked last episode about going out and getting another bat, like just a guy who can slot into that DH occasionally and rake. I mean, if he's not going to be there, there's going to be either a rotation, but who's the other offensive player that's coming in and playing on a consistent basis that's going to help this team?
No, it's definitely a huge question.
Because now you have the loss of Soto, which we all understood and, addressed with a couple different players, not going to get the same production, but you're helping the core of the team itself. But now when you don't have your DH as well, who you certainly were counting on production from, you need to fill that void. I mean, that's a big right-handed bat in the meat of your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, and Stanton's impact in the regular season last year wasn't great. So I don't think anyone was going to go into the season being like, well, he's going to just start to perform like he did in October, hitting home runs every single night. Like no one was expecting that from Stanton during the regular season. But
you still have a void. Yeah. You still have a power bat
because who slots into the DH? It's likely going to be a rotation to give guys positional days off. And then that pushes Oswaldo Cabrera or DJ LeMahieu or Everson Pereira or someone like that into the lineup on that day.
Correct. Yes, that's it. It gives that opportunity, or a Ben Rice, someone who's going to be going in. You're not going to get someone, the storyline that I have been keeping my eye on and just like watching during the spring training. And obviously we're very early in the spring, but Spencer Jones is the guy that potentially, if he knocks down the door in what he's doing in spring training and at the beginning of the season in the minor leagues, could have an impact. But again, huge unknown. But
you know what they're going to say with that? We want him everyday reps in AAA, not 2 days, 3 days, 4 days a week at the major league level.
Yeah, but if he's getting consistent DH at bats, or if they're able to give him that just on a rotation in different positions, then that might be the case. It's possible. Again, like you'd have to go out and get another bat then, if that's what's up. Like I said, I was kind of throwing the name out there in jest a little bit, but a Justin Turner like guy who could come in here and just rake for a bit. And then, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At a league minimum deal, that very well might happen, especially if Stanton's going to be out for a duration of time.
Well, if Stanton was still in camp, I think we could be like, okay, well, maybe Stanton will be back May 1st. Maybe he'll be back May 15th or something. And then you can just sort of get through the first few weeks of the season without him in the lineup. But now that he's not even with the Yankees, it's like, who the hell knows?
Yeah. I don't know. From Judge's comments, and Judge dismisses a lot of stuff, but who knows? It seems like he's not overly concerned.
I can't read him. I can't read Judge. And he says most vanilla textbook stuff.
Yeah, there's always a smile on his face when he's saying it.
Yeah. All right. Well, staying on the injury front, Scott Efros. You remember him?
Again.
Do you remember he's on the Yankees roster? It's probably hard to remember because we haven't seen him pitch in 4 seasons.
I remember him dominating at the end of the year in AAA, and had like a very healthy amount of innings with good production. But for whatever reason, they did not like him and did not want him up on the team. So yeah, he's hurt again.
He threw one pitch and pulled a hammy.
Grade 2 hammy. Yeah, so he's going to be on the shelf for a bit. Need that hamstring to pitch. Need that lower half, kind of important. Who knows? So yeah,
you were saying this before we started recording. Seems like the Yankees Brian Cashman loves acquiring guys with injury history or currently injured or whatever it is to sort of get them cheaper, to then capitalize on that value. And all it seems to do is have an injury guy on your roster that never actually gets healthy, because injury guys get injured. I don't know how many times I have to say that.
Well, yeah, he's trying to get a discount and get them and basically pay for their rehab. Brubaker was another guy who pulled up early on, right? That he pulled up. So we're
he's got it. There was a report 2 days ago. He's getting an MRI and a CT scan.
Yeah. So, I mean, anytime you have to do that, that's not ideal. Obviously that means he's probably shut down for a small period of time, so that you're getting those things. But yeah, he rolls the dice on some of these guys that do have either injury histories, or he's getting them injured and knowingly getting them injured and essentially just paying for the rehab.
Is the worst one he ever did Montes?
Yeah, but I feel like they missed something on that, or they were careless in how they evaluated something, because he was not supposed to be injured. he was supposed to come over and help the team.
Right.
And that the shoulder was an issue. And you see him now on the Mets down and going to miss a good amount of time as well. So that guy is just damaged goods, period. Anybody after what the Yankees went through, getting him from Oakland with the underlying shoulder issue, anybody who extends that man or signs a contract is playing with absolute fire. Because if you look back, the numbers have not been what everybody thought they were before he got popped for that steroid or for the whatever the illegal
was it PEDs? Was it officially?
It was PEDs. Yeah, it was performance enhancing in some capacity, and he got popped for that, and he's not been the same guy. Yeah. And since the shoulder injury, for sure, not been the same guy.
All right, well, I got a very important question to ask you. Probably should have been a leadoff question, but first, you know what I'm very, very jealous of that I found is common in European countries? That is speaking multiple languages. Anytime I have traveled abroad, it amazes me how many people can speak English as their second or even third language. That is not common at all in America, but it can be for you if you use Babbel. Maybe you're planning an international trip. Maybe you just want to broaden your horizons and discover new cultures. Whatever the reason, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons can help you learn a new language in as little as 3 weeks or at whatever pace you choose. Babbel is designed by over 200 language experts and uses practical real-world conversations instead of textbook-style teachings. Sure, you could spend money and tons of time on private tutors, or you can take learning into your own hands and give Babbel a try. One study even found that using Babbel for just 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. If that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. There's one more awesome thing. A 20-day money-back guarantee, so if you're not satisfied, there's really no risk to you. Start talking in a new language right now. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off a subscription at babbel.com/Bronx. Babbel.com/Bronx for 60% off. My important question is, did the Yankees hire a common sense department this offseason? Because there's two things that happened so far this offseason that leads me to believe yes. Number one was the reversal of the facial hair policy. And number two is them announcing they're not going to play New York after losses at Yankee Stadium.
Number three, did not entertain Alex Bregman.
That's a baseball on. So the common sense.
But that is off the field more than on the field. The fact that you don't want that guy in anywhere near Yankee Stadium wearing pinstripes around Yankees fans. It has nothing to do with the fact, nothing to do with what he does on the baseball field.
Yes, I know our common sense department would have influence over baseball decisions. Simple things like, hey, maybe talk to someone in that clubhouse of the guy you're acquiring to figure out if they're going to be able to handle New York. Like, hey, call up Oakland and be like, hey, can Sonny Gray deal with New York? They would have told you no. But also, just things, optical things for vibes, for feelings. No, why are we playing New York after losses? That doesn't. We had to hear freaking New York after the Yankees collapsed in Game 5 of the World Series.
I mean, that was all-time salt in the wound when you're hearing that. Watching, it wasn't just the collapse of one game. You're watching the opponent celebrate a World Series. The hell are we doing?
It was asinine.
If that had to happen. So now I'm stepping back because apparently another team had to win the World Series on your turf while you're doing it for that to happen. So I don't know how much more in your face you have to get.
Who finally raised their hand and be like, guys, what are we doing here?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if that was someone did. Someone raised their hand and said, there's some very simple decisions here that we can make. And they're playing another Frankie Blue Eyes song. It used to be Liza Minnelli, but they're changing.
Play whatever you want. Don't play the Win song.
Just don't play that song. Just don't play New York. That's all you just got to do. It's very simple. It's a very simple thing to do. You play a different song.
And then, so I've seen a couple of, I've seen differing opinion on the facial hair policy amendment. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. Some people, for whatever reason, like that the Yankees had this policy, thought it made them different, thought it made them unique. It's like, oh, you've got to wear the pinstripes. It's a privilege. You've got to give up self and join the team. And there's no names on the back. You've got to be clean shaving. We're business, like we're professional.
It's the Army.
And then other people, myself included, was like, what are we doing here? You want to grow a beard? You want to grow a beard. That doesn't make you an asshole.
Right. So you did a history episode, which we put out after that.
Yep.
we re-released it on the feed after this came about. And it's interesting when you look back at like when they did it as well. And you look back at the pictures of like Thurman Munson, who was just, hanging out, just like really taking advantage of the fact that there was nothing there. And so you're looking at, okay, where's the happy medium now? We're, 50 years now later, I'm doing math, 50 years later, the players are different. The world is different. I understand that there's a lot of people that are rooted in the tradition of what this is. And I appreciate that. I do. But I'm not totally opposed to them doing this. I think it makes sense. I think that in today's world, it's just not that important. And I don't think it takes anything away from the pinstripes of the New York Yankees and the tradition of the New York Yankees, because there was a long tradition before that policy was in play, of guys that, could do what they wanted with their facial hair. They got to keep it trimmed. They got to keep it, well maintained at this point.
In the 50s and 40s, 50s, it was not
that was
common
a society
to have.
thing.
Yeah, that was a society thing. And then Steinbrenner, because
then the hippies came in and took over.
If you go back and listen to that history episode, Steinbrenner showed up after he bought the team. It's like, everyone looks like a freaking slob. What is going on here? And so, him being the crazy dictator like owner that he is, he slapped a policy on it, and it lasted 50 years. I never thought Steinbrenner was ever going to reverse that policy, because it's what George put in place. But beards have to now be well maintained. That was mentioned. It's got to be a well kept beard. Didn't mention anything about long hair, though. I found that interesting, because the appearance policy was not just facial hair. It was also you couldn't have hair flowing down
beyond a certain level to the shoulders or just above the shoulders.
We've seen guys push that envelope. Don Mattingly used to push the envelope on that.
So I think that's still in play, though. You're not.
Well, I think so, because they didn't
make the adjustment,
right?
Yeah. So the fact is, you can't go out there with hair beyond your shoulders or whatever the exact policy states.
I think it's the neck. I think it's the neck.
Well, because even Garrett Cole like flirts with it when he doesn't cut his hair, and there are definitely some guys that are out there that have a little bit of a mullet going on back there. So. It was time. Look, I know people get annoyed and get so like start, yelling at the sky because of tradition, and baseball is just rooted in tradition. It's the one sport that everybody absolutely cares about what the tradition is in a particular, and the Yankees are the pinnacle of that. I get it. I do. But I think it's time. Like, things change. People change.
What, for me, the biggest thing was about this policy. It wasn't that, it was, everyone had to come over and shave, right? Like, we saw that happen. Johnny Damon had to shave. Other guys have been acquired midseason. They had to shave. It was the annoying freaking comments from idiots like David Price or Vlad Jr., who dismissed ever going to the Yankees and would always cite the facial hair policy as a reason.
But we all know that that's bullshit, right? Like, if the Yankees,
I think ultimately I know, but just the fact that it was talked about, and then that would cause the internet to go into a buzz about how archaic this policy is and everything. It's just like, why be talked about in that light when it's something so silly as a beard? Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it was time. And the fact that, Hal is the anti-George in every way. And it's funny. Maybe he's more Larry David than he is George, because he does talk like Larry David talking like George. So there's something there, maybe. But maybe he's just Larry David's the ventriloquist with the puppet.
Do we know yet who's growing a beard? Are there reports out of camp who's already got the beard going? Because I feel like Austin Wells can grow a beard in 10 hours.
Yes, Wells. Boone was talking about this. There's some guys that have to shave like multiple times a day, because it just comes right back. Devin Williams obviously is one that has had a beard.
For him, he's probably like, "What the hell? You couldn't have told me last week before I showed up."
Yeah, I don't think he has a problem growing beards. To be honest, I have a feeling he could have a full beard in a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious to see who's the first guy. Who's the first guy to really sport something that's way over the line? Because
I feel like it's got, like, they almost have to do it in solidarity. Like, either we're all going to grow beards or none of us are going to grow beards. It's like,
yeah,
just one random guy out there just growing the first beard in Yankees in 50 years.
Yeah, no, it's a big leap. It really is. It is a leap, whether you want to take it or not, and how the fan base will react to it as well. But it's going to happen at some point. So. Probably Devin Williams. And again, if Devin Williams walks out with a beard and shuts down the ninth inning and avoids nine losses at the end of the game, which is a big deal. And going back to the question of, is this team more well-rounded or could they be better? Well, yeah, if they close games out at the end, if there's a guy that can actually close out that ninth,
it was
14
inning, blown saves.
14, but there were 9 that were, he had some, I don't know if those were all directly affected in wins and losses at that point, but either way, fine. 14, 9, there's a lot of losses that you look back to last year that could have been avoided by a guy that knows how to throw strikes and close a game out. And if he's sporting a beard, great. I don't give a shit because he can close out those games.
I will.
But if you're wearing a beard and you don't close out those games.
I will say this to Devin Williams. If you're going to grow the beard back, don't suck.
Don't suck. The airbender better be on point.
You can't suck and have a beard because it's just, you're going to be bullseye number 1.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, so I said, do the Yankees finally have common sense? And then they go and do something like give Aaron Boone an extension. So no, they don't have common sense.
Par for the course.
Not
right?
surprising.
We all knew that this was coming. We all knew that, him going in as a lame duck manager wasn't going to happen. Final year, not going to happen. If Cashman's here, Boone's here. That's just right now they're tied at the hip. And it does, if you look back at Torrey, and I know you have the notes in here about the managers where they've been, their tenure more recently, like it gets him and out firmly into that category where
a decade.
Where history says that maybe this could be it. Actually, there could be an end to the Boone era at this point because this is what there's precedent for this with the previous regimes.
Yep. It's been the last 3 managers. Joe Torre was 12 seasons, 96 to 07. Girardi was 10 seasons, 2008 to 2017. And Boone, with this extension, is going to be 10 years if he finishes this out, 2018 to 2027. The Yankees had the manager circus in the 80s and early 90s, but it's 3 managers in the last, 30-ish years.
Yeah. How long was Buck at the helm?
Buck Showalter was 4 seasons.
4 seasons. So, and he was the probably the longest term of the.
Well, yeah, because before that
he was the end of the Stump Merrill.
Stump Merrill was 2 years. Bucky Dent was 2 years. Dallas Green was 56 a season. Billy Martin managed multiple times over the course of 8 seasons. There was Lou Piniella thrown in there. There was Yogi Berra thrown in there.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens, but again, just not surprising, but also just to me, it stands out that the priority of him being this likable guy and being the guy that the brass can trust to do what they want them to do and just be able to kind of be there and be a steadfast guy is prioritized over what he does and how he affects the baseball of this team. Because I think the baseball of this team has been negatively affected by him and the lack of accountability and the lack of fundamentals. And, we've spoken about this ad nauseum. I don't like him as an in-game manager. I don't like him as a guy who gets his team ready the most of on the field, puts them in the right positions, puts them in a fundamentally good spot for executing plays. And that all just unfortunately reared its ugly head multiple times last year. And again,
the World Series was most evident. Yeah, it was most evident in the World Series. The fundamentals, obviously the fallout from that, but you go back to the decisions he made in game 1 of the World Series, which could have cost them that game. And listen, the Dodgers are a better team. We don't have to rehash all of this, but you win game 1, it's a completely different series.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. His in-game stuff is a big deal. And again, like I have zero tolerance for the lack of fundamentals on a professional baseball team and lack of accountability, because those are, very much tied hand in hand as well. And that's just been the vibe of the teams in the past, the Boone era. And I don't see that changing. There's not like there's a bunch of new guys on the coaching staff either. We're running it back. And, World Series, great. Yes. World Series. they got to tighten everything up. Like it's got to be better. And there's nothing saying that he's going to do that because he's never prioritized it in the past.
No. Why 7 seasons just got another extension? Why change now?
And like you better damn well be working with Jason Dominguez on his fundamentals very, very clearly and very deliberately, because this is a guy that obviously has to make sure that he's grounded in that.
What's the tolerance there? Because he lost a ball in the sun in spring last week. We know what he did last year.
I watched that back. First step was in. He went
it was all over the place.
Get back out and
And Yankee Stadium left field. I'm not talking about Steinbrenner. Yankee Stadium in the Bronx left field in the summer is an awful sun field. It's notorious.
Yeah. I don't know the tolerance. TBD. It's when the tolerance starts going down, when my patience starts going down. But
No, I'm not talking about your tolerance. I'm talking about the team's tolerance.
Oh, with Dominguez?
If he makes mistakes in left.
What's the backup plan? There's no backup plan right now.
Yeah, I was good. Well, their tolerance for Verdugo was quite long.
Yeah. So again, I want them to be able to allow him to make mistakes because he is going to make mistakes. And going into the season, as a fan, my expectations are he's going to make mistakes. There are going to be
set the expectations low, and then let him exceed them.
Now, my expectations for him with the bat are significantly higher because I do expect him to come out and produce with the bat. I think he's got that ability. I think that we should see, a plus bat from him from the jump. I really that's what I expect. I think he's got that ability. So I don't want to see him struggle with the bat. I think I have a much higher tolerance. It's like the reverse Volpe. I got more tolerance with Volpe's offense, because the defense is tight. Now, if you're not playing great defense in left field, you better damn well be producing at the plate. You can't do both.
You can deal with subpar defense in left field if you're hitting. Absolutely.
Yes, 100%.
All right, so I mentioned Vlad because he passed his self-imposed deadline for a contract with Toronto. And then he said, if I go to free agency, every team, all 30 teams are going to have the opportunity to sit down with me to talk to me. And this is obviously different than what he said a couple of years ago, where he says, I like to play in New York. I like to kill the Yankees. I would never sign with the Yankees, not even when I'm dead. So I guess now, I don't think it has anything to do with the facial hair policy, but it's just funny timing. Now he's like, well, you know what? Money's green.
Yeah. And look who my agent is. He's gonna command. And again, for him, like after what Soto just got, the game has changed. Facial hair, who gives a shit? Like there's going to be a bidding war for that guy, especially if he puts up another really good year. And the fact that the Yankees need a first baseman long term, squarely looking at Vlad Guerrero, because he would fit this team very nicely, very nicely indeed.
He's not a good first baseman though, is he?
I don't care.
He's a DH.
He's a first baseman. He could play first base.
I know he plays first base, but I think he's a DH.
I think he comes in as he's certainly going out to free agent as a first baseman. He will be a first baseman where he goes. And especially if you're going to give him that much money, he's going to be a first baseman. If he's a DH, then you're not going to get that much money. Even look what Soto is. He's not like he's a great right fielder. He's not at all.
No.
So but nobody gives a shit, but he does go out there every single inning and play the field, and he plays the game. So you need that. That's like, to me, a prerequisite for getting that money and going to free agency. Mm. Especially he's young. He's a young guy.
He is. We looked it up last week. I thought he was a little bit older. I think he's 26 years old. I thought he was like 28 or 29.
Yeah, no, he's like you're entering still prime peak Vlad Guerrero Jr.
Do we know what that personal issues he had with the Yankees? Was it stemmed from his dad because that contract fell through?
Possibly. There's been Griffey held that against the Yankees.
No, that was different.
Career.
When Ken Griffey Sr. played for the Yankees, he hated George because George didn't let him have Ken Griffey Jr. in the dugout, and among other things, there was some racial things that he did not like as well, accusations. But Vlad Sr. had a contract with the Yankees before the 2004 season, and then George signed Gary Sheffield above Brian Cashman's head, so the Yankees had to back out of the Vlad Sr. contract. I don't know if that's what he's referring to, why the family is pissed at the Yankees.
Well, I'm sure they're not happy after that with an opportunity to come here. So yeah, there's probably some of that, but also seniors probably like, don't be stupid. The past is the past. You're going to get a dumb amount of money in this off season, and the New York Yankees are among the highest bidders every single time
Right.
they're going after someone. And with the fact that the Mets, have this Soto contract now, it's very possible that you go into a free agency with Vlad Guerrero. The Yankees are by far the favorite.
And you just can never, you should never rule out the Yankees just for bidding war purposes.
And again, like, knowing who his agent is, you're not going to do that.
He's Boris, right?
He's a Boris guy.
Yeah.
They do this. This is what they do. They drive the price up.
Boris talked some sense into him. Boris had to sit down, sent some guys to his house in an unmarked vehicle, and had a nice talk with Vlad.
Yeah, common sense department here. Who gives a shit? And by the way, they changed the policy, so all good anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, he would still have to trim his dreadlocks.
Maybe just put him up in the hat too.
Mm-hmm.
You should do that.
Last thing I wanted to briefly touch. Did you watch any of the Four Nations hockey tournament?
I didn't watch. I saw highlights.
I actually watched both of the U.S. Canada games. I didn't watch any of the other games. They were obviously the one when they had all the fighting was awesome, and then the final was a good. I'm not like the biggest hockey fan, but it's a fun sport to watch. Just like drop in and watch it. It's great action. But I saw some.
It's the best live sport, I think, in professional sports.
But some people, were theorizing what other sports would this work in, because obviously baseball has the World Baseball Classic, but it's done during spring training. This Four Nations tournament, it was only 4 nations. They might expand it in the future, but it's done in the middle of the season, the same way the Olympics are done for NHL players. They go play in the Olympics in the middle of the season. But what you got was everyone in mid-season peak form playing. You've got basically all-star rosters playing.
They did it in they replaced the All-Star weekend.
Yes,
with this,
they replaced the All-Star week. Well, they took a little bit more time off, but yes, they replaced the All-Star break with this. And hockey, I think, is a unique sport because for whatever reason, hockey players, they're obviously not as mainstream. They don't make as much money as anyone else, but they legitimately care about like their country and playing for their country. I think that's been evident in the Olympics and in this tournament. And I don't know if that exists in other sports, but I think baseball has a little bit of that, especially like there's very strong passion in the Caribbean countries for baseball, certainly Japan. And I think, in the US as well. So I was just wondering if baseball, because baseball's not even an Olympic sport anymore, I don't think.
They brought it back.
Okay, but it's amateur athletes.
I think anybody can play.
No, I don't think a professional baseball player can play in the Olympics.
I thought that was an Olympics thing. Like professionals are back in the game. How do you make a rule for one sport and not another? Because
I don't
basketball.
I don't know. Anyway.
I'm not going to pretend to know all the
basketball
Olympic,
is in the off season though. I think that's part of it. It's baseball. The Olympics happen in August, and baseball's in season in August. The NBA is not in season in August.
Yeah. So for timing purposes,
right.
that's the reason. I don't think it's
regardless.
Not
If they did a WBC tournament, which is like 3 weeks long, if they did that in the middle of the season in July instead of the All-Star break, and they just had to trim down the regular season because of that, or even start the regular season a little bit earlier, you just play some more games in Florida. I don't know. Whatever. Do you think it would be a big thing?
I think it's harder to do for baseball in the middle of the season. I think it's harder to do. Hockey, I think, is a little easier. I think baseball is a lot more difficult because of pitching. Number one, I think pitching becomes tricky at that point. But
it's just another start
at a roster. And dude, they're just making so much money to go out there and to play for not their team in the middle of the year. I just, and that's extra time, that's extra innings, that's extra wear and tear. Like, you want your catcher playing in that?
Well,
no,
the thing is about
Austin Wells playing in that.
Well, he wouldn't make the team. The WBC, the thing that loses it for me is for most of it, it's guys throwing 40 pitches because they're ramping up. And I'm like, yes, I get it. Like, these are the best baseball players in their country. But the guy is on a 40 pitch count. This isn't real baseball.
But that's the thing. What are you talking about? That's exactly what you're seeing in the playoffs. It's the same thing. You don't. It's not like you're getting guys who are throwing, all these.
Well, there's at least the delusion that he could go 7 innings.
But the difference is you're getting 40 pitches from an all-star, then 40 pitches from another all-star, then 40 pitches from another all-star. So I think it plays. And the fact that they have it in spring training at that time,
it's the only time to do it.
Well, plus it's not extra. You're building up anyway, so you might as well do it in this capacity.
You still get injuries, though.
I think of course you can get injuries in spring training as well. But I think that for baseball, the WBC works, and I like it. I know they're qualifying this year. There's teams that are qualifying for its next year, and I like it, man. Like I think it is good the way it is. I was talking about this. I was out in Denver last weekend visiting my brother. They just had a baby. Shout out to Coop. And I was hanging out with some of the BP crew guys out there, Josh, and we were talking about this. And the fact that I don't think it works in season for baseball. I think it's cool for hockey that you can do it. I think it's better than doing what NBA does, because the whole NBA in season cup thing is weird. I think it's weird. But you're changing it a bit for hockey. So you have nations, and it's more of a controlled tournament. Like I think there's something there with that.
Well, you're seeing leagues do these things, though. That's the thing. Like you're seeing the NHL and NBA experiment with in-season things to drum up buzz and more attention. And baseball has never changed anything about their regular season. The only thing they've changed is expanding the playoffs. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for them to change something to generate, because like, God, after the NBA playoffs end, like end of June, July, August, like all there is baseball regular season. It's not exactly the most exciting stuff.
But so my argument to this was when I was talking about this with Josh about the All-Star weekend for baseball. I still think the All-Star weekend for baseball plays way better than any other sport.
I don't know. Give me the Pro Bowl any day of the week.
No, yeah, the Pro Bowl, even hockey, they were doing doing USA versus the world and stuff like that before this. But baseball with the Derby, like I think they've made good changes in the Derby, so the Derby's still entertaining. And then the game itself, like you can't half-ass play baseball. When you're out there playing baseball, you have to play baseball. No, but you that's how you get injured. You can't hit a 98 mile an hour fastball if you're swinging half-ass, if you're taking dry swings. You know what I mean? Like you got to go up there and be ready to compete. So I think in baseball it still plays like a high level, highly competitive exhibition game. So I don't think there's a problem with the way baseball is. I think there are problems with all of the All-Star weekends in the other sports, and that's why they've had to make these adjustments. Football still hasn't figured it out. I don't know what the hell they're doing.
They don't need to figure that out, though.
They don't, because the season's over at that point, and they're doing it after the year. Hockey, like that worked. This was a good thing, and NBA's.
But the hockey's not doing this every year.
Okay, but so I think that you have to experiment, but I think that the baseball All-Star weekend still plays. I think it does. I think it still works.
That's fair. I agree.
And I have to give Major League Baseball some credit for the adjustments that they've made, not only for the Derby, because I think they putting the clock on the Derby made it more interesting. And then, we've shit on baseball MLB for a while, especially from before 2017 and during 2017 and the whole Manfred, when he was like public enemy number one. But they have made, to their credit, they have made good adjustments in the game during the regular season, I believe.
Talk about the pitch clock.
The pitch clock, they've made a lot of adjustments. I mean, the bases, the stealing, like the
extra inning rule, which I know you don't like, but that's a big change.
I don't like that rule,
but it's a big change.
It is a big change. They've improved. I think they've improved the quality of the game based on what today's standards are of a fan consuming a game, and obviously they have a mission to the. They have a mission to the sport to make it more entertaining for younger fans, because they are going to be, the spectators moving forward. So you have to make those adjustments, or you will not survive the long-term, ebb and flow of how fan bases are. So,
I agree with you that I don't think ultimately a mid-season WBC would work for baseball, but part of me wants to see it, just what mid-season form of those teams playing looks like versus spring training ramp up.
Yeah. And I will say the last time the WBC was here, like I was in, it was very entertaining. I thought it was good. And you definitely got the fire from the, the people who went and played for their countries. Like there was definitely another energy, a level of energy there that you don't get in spring training. So it actually, to me, was like, it was fun because spring training games, you become numb to them at some point and they're just kind of going through the motions and it's practice. But when you have that, now there's like a different element within spring that is exciting and really does, I think, fire you up for the regular season to start.
Okay. Anything else you want to chat about?
No, just, let's hear about Stanton. Give me some answers. Tell me what's going on. Get the guy back in camp.
Yeah, and hopefully, obviously, everything is okay on a personal level. Thank you again to our sponsors today, Factor, Babbel, and Mint Mobile. If you guys are interested in any of those, check out the show notes for the links and the promo codes, and we'll talk to you again next week.